Welcome to this explainer. Okay, so looking at the massive syllabus for the officially exam from Oracle, yeah, it can look seriously intimidating. I mean, it's huge. But today, we are going to decode this source material together. We'll translate that absolute mountain of requirements into a clear, visual blueprint, basically transforming all those complex database concepts into structured, bite-sized pieces. Let's jump right in.
Here's the certification blueprint we're covering today. We'll start with architecture and admin basics, move into storage, structures, and undo, hit mastering SQL fundamentals, and finally wrap up with data and schema objects.
All right, Section 1, Architecture and Admin Basics. It's all about pouring that foundation. Now, the source material places a massive emphasis on Oracle Net Services, so it's absolutely crucial we clearly understand the difference between dedicated and shared server configurations. In a dedicated server setup, every single client connection gets its very own dedicated server process. It's super simple, really robust, but kind of resource-heavy. On the flip side, a shared server configuration uses a dispatcher. This little guy routes multiple client requests to a pool of shared server processes. It's highly efficient if you've got thousands of lightweight transactions happening. Think like an e-commerce checkout. Oracle's testing standards love evaluating when you should use which, so keep this distinction crystal clear.
Okay, starting up instances. It's not just like pushing a power button on your PC. There is a really strict sequence you've got to know. Step 1 is no mount. This is where the instance starts, memory gets allocated, background processes fire up, but there's no database associated with it yet. Then step 2 is mount. Here the instance locates and actually reads the database control file. And finally, step 3 is open. This is where the data files and redo log files are opened up, making the whole database fully available to normal users. Seriously, memorize this exact sequence.
For administrative access, let's rapidly fire through the Oracle-supplied tools you're expected to know. First, the Database Configuration Assistant, or DBCA. You use this to actually create your database, which literally saves you hours of manual scripting. Then you've got Enterprise Manager, Cloud Control, and Database Express, which are your graphical web-based interfaces for keeping an eye on database health. And for your direct querying and scripting needs, you absolutely must know your way around SQL Developer and the classic command line tool, SQL+.
Moving right along to Section 2, Storage, Structures, and Undo. This is where we start building the walls and rooms of our database.
So whenever you see a syllabus topic about managing database transactions, I want you to immediately think of undo data. Undo data is simply the pre-modified data. Why does this matter? Well, if a user makes a mistake and types rollback, Oracle desperately needs that undo data to revert the changes. It's also how Oracle guarantees read consistency. Basically, if a massive query takes 5 minutes to run, it sees the data exactly as it was when the query started, even if someone else is actively modifying it right then. Pretty cool, right?
Now, here is a classic exam trap. You absolutely must be able to strictly compare and differentiate undo data from redo data. Like we just talked about, undo is for rolling back transactions and providing read consistency. Redo data, however, is all about rolling forward. Redo logs record every single change made to the database specifically for recovery purposes. If the server randomly crashes, Oracle uses redo to recover the lost data and undo to roll back any uncommitted transactions. Please, whatever you do not mix these two up on test day.
Efficiency is a huge focus in the official Oracle certification path. You really need to know how to use features like resumable space allocation, which is great because it pauses large operations if they run out of space, rather than just failing entirely. You'll also be tested on how shrinking segments reclaims wasted space, and how table and row compression actively shrinks down your overall storage footprint.
All right, on to Section 3, Mastering SQL Fundamentals. The foundation and walls are up, now we're living in the house.
Let's test your readiness really quick with a classic trap question directly inspired by the exam syllabus. It's all about arithmetic expressions and null values. Imagine you take a number, say 100, and you add a null value to it. What exactly does Oracle return? Does it give you 100? Does it throw an error?
Well, the answer is, an arithmetic expression containing a null always evaluates to null. The source material goes deep into testing how arithmetic expressions behave with nulls, which is exactly why you have to master conversion and conditional functions. You'll need NVL to convert a null into an actual value, nullif to compare two expressions, and coalesce to snag the first non-null expression in a list. Think of these functions as your ultimate shield against really annoying null-related bugs.
Next up, SQL joins. They are notoriously tricky. Everyone gets basic inner joins, but the blueprint pushes you way further. You've got to understand self-joins, where a table is literally joined to itself, which is perfect for stuff like employee-manager hierarchies.
Then there are non-equijoins, where you use operators like between instead of a standard equal sign. And super importantly, outer joins, which are absolutely crucial for displaying data even when there's no actual match in the joined table.
You'll also need to be able to rapidly spot single-row functions. Those are functions that operate on a single row and give you a single result. Pay really close attention to conversion functions like TOZ of char. You'll use that constantly to wrangle messy dates into clean, readable strings. The exam also goes heavy on number manipulators like round, trunc, and mod, plus character string manipulators like upper, lower, and substar. Oh, and doing arithmetic with date data? Yeah, that's a huge focus too, so brush up on that.
Here's another thing the blueprint loves testing: the difference between implicit and explicit data type conversion. Implicit conversion is when Oracle just automatically changes a value from one data type to another under the hood, like quietly turning the string 10 into a number so you can do math with it. Now, while Oracle can do this, the official best practice and exactly what the exam expects from you is explicit conversion. That means manually stepping in and using functions like TO to char or TO to date to guarantee exact, predictable results. Don't rely on the database's internal guessing engine. Okay, set operators. You need to know how to match select statements using these. Know exactly when you should use union to combine distinct rows, union all if you want all rows including duplicates, intersect to find only the overlapping rows between queries, and minus to subtract the results of one query from another. Oh, and here is a massive tip. When you're using the order by clause in set operations, it can only appear once, and it has to be at the very end of the entire statement. Don't let them trick you on that.
Finally, Section 4, Data and Schema Objects. Time to add the furniture and the details.
For this part, you will absolutely need to know which commands are data definition language, or DDL, versus data manipulation language, or DML. DDL commands define the actual database structure, then create, alter, and drop. Setting up a view or tweaking a table, that's DDL. And here's the kicker: DDL commands automatically commit their transactions. DML commands, on the other hand, control the actual data transactions. Think insert, update, and delete. You're manipulating the data inside those structures, which means you need an explicit commit or rollback.
Beyond your standard tables, you're expected to confidently manage some pretty complex schema objects. You gotta know how indexes act just like a book's glossary to massively speed up your queries, how synonyms create simple alternative names for objects, how sequences act as an automatic number generator for your primary keys. Plus, you need to grasp the life cycle of temporary tables for session-specific data, and exactly how to lock down data integrity using constraints.
If you get a question on moving data into or out of the Oracle database, your brain should immediately jump to one of three tools. First, Oracle Data Pump. That's your high-speed workhorse for bulk data and metadata movement. Then there's SQL Loader, the classic tried-and-true utility for loading data from external flat files into your Oracle tables. And finally, external tables. These are actually fascinating. They let you query data sitting in flat files directly using SQL without even bothering to load it into the database first. Pretty amazing, right?
When it comes to security, user administration, and profiles, always remember that the source material heavily emphasizes the principle of least privilege. Never, ever give a user the DBA role if they just need to update one tiny table. You really have to understand how to assign authentication methods, administer roles, and grant the absolute minimum system and object privileges they need to do their job. Good security always starts with locking down access.
So we've broken down the blueprint today. But as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with something to chew on. As databases keep accelerating toward these autonomous, AI-driven cloud environments, how will all these foundational skills evolve? Like, are we even going to need to manage undo manually in 10 years? It's wild to think about. Until we explore that, review these concepts, dive into the material, and I will see you in the next explainer.